Sometimes life doesn't turn out how you plan, but you can fashion it into something great. For example, this is literally my job. The WWE try to plan things long term, sometimes. Not often, but sometimes this pays off. Other times, fate or acts of God force the WWE's hand, as loath as Vince McMahon is to put God over. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 times real-life events force world title changes. Number 10, No Mercy 2007. Injuries are as much a part of wrestling as tiny pants and no shame. In 2007, John Cena was over a year into a title reign that people were already starting to hate, when he tore his pectoral muscle with a simple hip toss, not the RKO on the table that WWE claim. As a result of Superman bleeding, Orton was simply given the title and No Mercy 6 days later, his first ever WWE title, which he immediately lost to Triple H, who then fought Umaga the same night, before Orton finally won it back at the end of the night in a last man standing match. One injury to John Cena forced 3 title changes on the same night. Christian wins his first world title. Edge retired in April 2011 because doctors said to him, "You will be paralyzed if you don't." That is a good reason. He was World Heavyweight Champion at the time, which forced the title to be held up as vacant. At the next pay-per-view, Extreme Rules, Christian, Edge's best friend of 27 years, won the title in a ladder match against Alberto Del Rio, and the two men embraced in a hug that was as moving as it was Canadian. Sure, he lost it almost immediately to Randy Orton, but shut up. Number 8, Tazz wins the ECW title. This is a strange one. A WWE wrestler beat a WCW wrestler for an ECW title. That makes my brain crumple just a little bit. See, Mike Awesome wasn't being as awesome as his name suggests and accepted an offer of work from WCW while he was holding the ECW title. Naughty puppy. Heyman needed him to drop the title and brought in Tazz to make sure it got done. Tazz was signed to WWE at the time, and Vince let him wrestle for Heyman as a favor, and possibly to stick it to WCW. Tazz would drop the title to Tommy Dreamer soon afterwards, and Mike Awesome would go on to become the Fat Chick Thriller, so everyone wins. Number 7, Booker T wins the world title on the last Nitro. March 26, 2001 was the date of the last ever edition of WCW Monday Nitro. WWE had bought WCW by that point, which meant they were in charge of booking. Scott Steiner was going into the show as WCW World Champion, but WWE felt that Booker T was younger, more exciting, and also ready to come to work for WWE straight away. Steiner had a fat contract that meant that he was going to get paid for sitting at home, so WWE forced a title change and brought Booker T over to WWE as champion, and one of the main faces of the poorly booked invasion angle. If only someone could try and book that angle better. Number 6, John Morrison wins the ECW title after the Benoit tragedy. At Vengeance Night of Champions in June 2007, Chris Benoit was booked to fight and beat CM Punk for the ECW Championship. He was going to rule the brand and help foster young talent. However, that never came to be because that weekend Chris Benoit killed his wife, his son, and finally himself. At the time, WWE knew none of this. All they knew was Chris Benoit isn't here, so they hastily shoved John Morrison, then known as Johnny Nitro, in his place, who ended up beating Punk for the belt, and the two would feud for several months, leading to Morrison's successful Shaman of Sexy gimmick. Number 5, the Gulf War inspires 2 title changes. Raw is war, and war is hell, except in WWE's case when war is profit. The Gulf War between Iraq and Kuwait was the biggest story in the world, so why not make a buck? Sergeant Slaughter was brought back to the company and adopted an Iraqi sympathizer angle that drew so much heat that the company received actual death threats. The heat went nuclear when Slaughter beat the Ultimate Warrior for the WWE title at the Royal Rumble. Without the Gulf War, Ultimate Warrior was set to retain all the way till WrestleMania 7 for a WrestleMania 6 rematch with Hulk Hogan, but the Hulkster instead beat the villainous Slaughter at the event to much fanfare. Does this technically make WWE war profiteers? Yes. Number 4, Punk wins at Money in the Bank. Until 2011, CM Punk was the best also-ran in WWE. He was a stupendously good villain, but never quite seemed able to crack into the upper echelons of the roster, or at least wasn't given the opportunity to. That all changed in the lead-up to Money in the Bank 2011. CM Punk's contract actually was coming up, and he actually hadn't decided if he was going to stay with the company. This was worked into an angle that ignited the fans because it was, as a hipster douche would say, super real, you guys. Cue pipe bomb, the fans and press alike exploding for Punk, and a title change for the man who never received his proper due. Number 3, Rey Mysterio wins his first world title. Eddie Guerrero died in 2005. In tribute to the late legend and also to make some dollar, WWE gave the World Heavyweight title to Eddie's closest kin in the company. No, not him. Rey Mysterio. Sorry, Chavo. Ray dedicated his Royal Rumble 2006 performance to Eddie and lasted a record 62 minutes to win a shot at the world title at WrestleMania 22, which he won. Considering how terribly Rey Mysterio was booked in the months following his victory, losing a lot of non-title matches, it's fair to say that had Eddie not passed, it's unlikely that Mysterio would ever have seen the world title at all. Number 2, the Montreal Screwjob. Despite signing Bret Hart to one of the most lucrative contracts in WWE history, the relationship between the excellence of execution and Vince McMahon would become even more strained. Finally, Vince just gave Bret the green light to just go after a WCW contract, which was immediately offered to him. Just one last thing, if Hart was leaving the company, Vince wanted him to drop the belt to Shawn Michaels in Montreal. Bret refused. He and Michaels hated each other, and worst of all, the match would take place in Canada, where the Calgary native was a national hero. As Triple H said, if Bret won't do business, we'll have to do business for him, and he was screwed out of the title in the most infamous Survivor Series match of all time. HBK locked in the sharpshooter, and even though Hart didn't tap, the bell rang and Michaels was declared the winner. Then Bret punched out Vince backstage. Number 1. Kurt Angle wins because of 9/11. After the attacks on the World Trade Center that left approximately 3,000 people dead, the WWE decided to stage a feel-good American moment. At the time, a heel Stone Cold Steve Austin was champion and was scheduled to face Kurt Angle at Unforgiven. It was Kurt's hometown of Pittsburgh, and since Angle was as American as you can get without physically becoming an apple pie, they gave the Olympic hero a huge win and a feel-good moment for the WWE universe. The title reign lasted only 15 days, making it one of the shortest of all time, but a necessary one. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and you can even follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.